What if I told you that right now, at this very moment, an object from another star system is silently approaching our solar system? And some of the world's most brilliant scientists believe it might not be what it appears to be. What if this seemingly innocent cosmic visitor could be executing the most sophisticated reconnaissance mission in human history? This isn't science fiction. This is 3I Atlas, and according to Harvard's Professor Avi Loeb, we might be witnessing something that challenges everything we thought we knew about our place in the universe. Dr. Loeb's work suggests that 3I Atlas could be artificial, potentially executing a covert maneuver by November. But here's what will absolutely blow your mind. An optimal intercept of Earth would entail an arrival in late November or early December of 2025. That's just weeks away from when you're watching this video. By the end of this deep dive, you'll understand why this object has divided the scientific community, why its trajectory defies astronomical odds, and why some researchers are calling it potentially the most significant discovery in human history. And more importantly, you'll know exactly what the worst-case scenario could mean for every person on this planet. Before we dive into this cosmic mystery, hit that like button if you're ready to have your mind blown, subscribe for more mind-bending content, and drop a comment telling me what country you're watching from and what time it is where you are. I love seeing our global community come together to explore these incredible mysteries. To understand why 3I Atlas is so extraordinary, we need to grasp just how rare interstellar visitors actually are. Think of it like this. Imagine Earth's solar system as a small town in the middle of an endless desert, and interstellar objects are like mysterious travelers who occasionally wander through. Before 2017, we had never confirmed seeing one of these cosmic wanderers. Then came Oumuamua in October 2017, the first confirmed interstellar object to visit our solar system. But Oumuamua was strange. It accelerated as it moved away from the sun in ways that couldn't be explained by gravity alone, had an unusual elongated shape, and showed no signs of outgassing like a typical comet should. 2 years later, we discovered 2I Borisov in August 2019. Thankfully, this one behaved exactly like a comet should, complete with a bright tail and predictable trajectory. Scientists breathed a collective sigh of relief. Finally, a normal interstellar visitor. But then came 3I Atlas in July 2025, and everything got complicated again. The high speed and hyperbolic trajectory of 3I Atlas means it must have come from another star and was cast adrift in the Milky Way by some unknown process before it eventually, by chance, briefly swooped by our sun. But here's where it gets interesting and suspicious. Dr. Avi Loeb, former chair of Harvard's astronomy department and one of the most cited physicists in the world, published a paper in July 2025 that sent shockwaves through the astronomical community. We show that 3I Atlas approaches surprisingly close to Venus, Mars, and Jupiter with a probability of less than 0.005%. Let me put this in perspective for you. Imagine throwing a dart blindfolded at a dartboard the size of a football field and hitting the bullseye 3 times in a row. That's essentially what 3I Atlas is doing with our planets. The mathematical probability is so low that it challenges our understanding of random cosmic events. But wait, there's more. Unlike every comet we've ever observed, 3I Atlas shows no visible tail. The simplest hypothesis is that 3I Atlas is a comet, and we are missing the spectral features of its gaseous coma because of its large distance from Earth. But if future observations continue to show no cometary activity, we'll be forced to consider other possibilities. And here's what should make you pause. 3I Atlas will pass nearest to the Sun on October 29th, 2025, when the Earth will be located on the opposite side of the Sun, making terrestrial observations of it difficult at that time. It's almost as if this object chose the perfect moment to hide its true nature from our telescopes. Let's dive deeper into why 3I Atlas's path through our solar system is so remarkable that it's causing some of the world's most skeptical scientists to question everything they know about interstellar objects. When I first learned about orbital mechanics in my physics studies, my professor used this analogy. Think of our solar system like a vast spider web, with the sun at the center and planetary orbits forming concentric circles. Now imagine someone from outside throws a rock through this web. The chances of that rock threading through multiple circles without hitting anything, while also following a path that brings it close to several specific points, are astronomically small. That's exactly what 3I, Atlas, is doing. Here's what will blow your mind. Most interstellar objects follow what we call hyperbolic trajectories. They come screaming into our solar system at incredible speeds, swing around the sun once, and shoot back out into space, never to be seen again. They're like cosmic hit and runs. But 3IA, Peleus, is different. Professor Loeb's calculations show that this object will make remarkably close approaches to 3 of our planets, Venus, Mars, and Jupiter. To understand how unlikely this is, consider this. Our solar system is mostly empty space. The planets occupy tiny fractions of their orbital zones. For a random interstellar object to naturally approach 3 planets this closely is like winning the cosmic lottery 3 times in a row. But here's where it gets really interesting. The trajectory isn't just statistically impossible, it's also practically perfect for observation and reconnaissance. Furthermore, the low retrograde tilt of 3I Peleus's orbital plane to the ecliptic offers various benefits to an extraterrestrial intelligence, ETI, since it allows the object to survey multiple planets with minimal energy expenditure. Dr. Sarah Seeger from MIT, one of the leading experts in exoplanet detection, has pointed out that any advanced civilization capable of interstellar travel would likely choose trajectories that maximize scientific return while minimizing detection risk. And 3I LAC's path fits this profile disturbingly well. Think of it like this. If you were an advanced alien civilization wanting to study Earth and our neighboring planets without being detected, you'd want to approach from an angle that lets you observe multiple worlds, use the minimum amount of fuel for course corrections, and time your closest approach for when the primary target, Earth, has limited observation capabilities. That's exactly what 3I, Atlas, is doing. And here's the kicker. Unfortunately, 3I Atlas will hide behind the Sun at its perihelion on October 29, 2025. And so we will not be able to observe whether it releases any mini-probes into Earth's orbit. Wait, did you catch that? Whether it releases any mini-probes. Dr. Loeb isn't just suggesting this might be artificial. He's hypothesizing that it could be a mothership carrying smaller reconnaissance vehicles. Dr. Abraham Avi Loeb didn't set out to become the most controversial astronomer of our time. As the longest-serving chair of Harvard's astronomy department, he had built his reputation on rigorous mathematical analysis and groundbreaking work in theoretical astrophysics. He was the scientist other scientists turned to for the final word on cosmic phenomena. But everything changed in 2017 with Oumuamua, when the first confirmed interstellar object displayed behavior that couldn't be explained by conventional physics. Most of Loeb's colleagues went searching for exotic natural explanations. They proposed everything from hydrogen icebergs to nitrogen snowflakes to explain Oumuamua's mysterious acceleration. Loeb took a different approach. He applied Occam's razor, the principle that the simplest explanation is usually correct, and reached a startling conclusion. What if Oumuamua was artificial? What if it was technology from another civilization? The scientific establishment reacted with everything from polite skepticism to outright hostility. But Loeb had mathematics on his side. His paper, co-authored with Dr. Shmuel Bialy, demonstrated that Oumuamua's acceleration pattern was consistent with a light sail, a technology we ourselves are developing for interstellar travel. Now, with 3I Atlas, is once again asking the questions most scientists are afraid to ask. And his analysis is more rigorous than ever. On the Loeb scale, where 0 refers to a definitely natural comet and 10 implies a definitely artificial object, Loeb has tentatively placed 3I Atelier at the 4 or 5, meaning the evidence is compelling enough to warrant serious investigation, but not yet conclusive. But here's what makes Loeb's analysis of 3I Atlas so compelling. He's not just pointing out anomalies. He's making testable predictions. He's told us exactly what to look for and when to look for it. For instance, Loeb predicts that if 3I Atlas is artificial, it might execute what he calls non-gravitational acceleration, subtle course corrections that can't be explained by the sun's gravity alone. These corrections would be evidence of propulsion systems. He's also proposed a specific method to determine 3I Atlas's true nature. Harvard scientist Avi Loeb has suggested a way to know whether it is a comet or an alien spaceship. His method can be employed in October when 3I Atelier gets close to Mars using the HERE-EYES camera aboard the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter. This isn't speculation, it's science. Loeb is putting his reputation on the line with specific, testable hypotheses. And that takes extraordinary scientific courage. Let's talk about the elephant in the room. The physics of 3I Atlas simply doesn't behave like any natural object we've ever studied. And I'm going to show you exactly why this has some of the world's brightest minds questioning everything they thought they knew about interstellar objects. Dr. Robert Warwick from the University of Western Ontario, who has discovered more asteroids than almost anyone alive, has been studying 3I Atlas since its discovery. What he's found defies conventional explanation. First, there's the albedo problem. Albedo is essentially how shiny an object is, how much sunlight it reflects back to us. Comets typically have very low albedos because they're covered in dark, dusty material. But 3I Atelier reflects light in a pattern that's more consistent with a metallic or highly processed surface. Think of it like this. Imagine you're looking at cars in a parking lot from an airplane. The dirty, dusty cars blend into the background, but the polished chrome bumpers and clean windshields catch your eye immediately. That's what 3I Atlas is doing. It's reflecting light like something that was manufactured, not something that formed naturally in the cold depths of interstellar space. Second, there's the rotation issue. Most asteroids and comets tumble chaotically through space, spinning on multiple axes, like a football thrown by someone who's never played the game. But 3I Atlas maintains an unusually stable rotation. Dr. Alan Fitzsimmons from Queen's University Belfast has noted that this stability is more consistent with a designed object than a natural fragment. But here's where it gets really weird. The spectroscopy. When we point telescopes at comets, we expect to see specific signatures in the light they reflect, evidence of water ice, organic compounds, and rocky materials. These signatures tell us what the object is made of. It's like cosmic DNA analysis. James Webb Space Telescope takes first look at interstellar comet 3I Atlas with unexpected results. The results were not what anyone expected. Instead of the typical comet composition, 3I Atlas showed spectral features that astronomers are struggling to explain. Dr. Michelle Bannister from the University of Canterbury, one of the world's leading experts on small solar system bodies, has been analyzing the Webb telescope data. What she's finding challenges our fundamental understanding of how comets form and evolve. The object shows evidence of carbon dioxide, which is normal for comets. But it's also showing signatures that suggest a much more complex internal structure than any natural comet should have. Think of it like X-raying what you think is a simple rock, only to discover it has intricate internal machinery. And then there's the thermal signature. When objects heat up as they approach the sun, they radiate that heat in predictable patterns. 3I Atlas isn't following those patterns. It's maintaining a thermal profile that suggests either an unusual composition or active thermal management. That phrase should send chills down your spine. Active thermal management. That's not something natural objects do. That's engineering. What I'm about to share with you will fundamentally change how you think about our place in the universe. Because 3I Atlas might not be the first artificial interstellar object to visit our solar system. It might just be the first one we've been sophisticated enough to detect. Dr. James Green, former director of NASA's Planetary Science Division, conducted a fascinating study in 2019. He calculated how many interstellar objects should have passed through our solar system over the past billion years, based on the density of objects we're now detecting. The answer? Potentially millions. Think about that for a moment. Millions of objects from other star systems have swept through our cosmic neighborhood, and until 2017, we never saw a single one. Not because they weren't there, but because we weren't looking hard enough or with sensitive enough instruments. But here's what will keep you awake tonight. If even a tiny fraction, let's say 0.01%, of those millions of visitors were artificial, that means hundreds of alien probes could have studied our solar system throughout Earth's history. Dr. Duncan Forden from the University of St. Andrews has taken this analysis even further. In his 2019 paper, The Case for Technosignatures: Why They May Be Abundant, Long-Lived, Highly Detectable, and Unambiguous, he argues that advanced civilizations would likely use what he calls Bracewell probes, self-replicating exploratory spacecraft that systematically survey nearby star systems. The mathematics are staggering. A single civilization launching just one self-replicating probe could, over the course of a few million years, survey every star system in our galaxy. And our galaxy is 13.8 billion years old, plenty of time for multiple civilizations to have conducted comprehensive surveys. So why haven't we noticed them before? The answer might surprise you. We have. Throughout human history, we've recorded anomalous celestial objects that appeared briefly and then vanished. From ancient Chinese astronomical records describing guest stars that moved in impossible ways, to medieval European chronicles documenting strange lights that followed predictable paths across the sky, to modern UFO sightings that correlate with astronomical events. What if some of these weren't supernatural phenomena, but actual observations of artificial interstellar objects? Dr. Beatrice Villarol from Stockholm University has been leading a fascinating project called VASCO, Vanishing and Appearing Sources During a Century of Observations. Her team is systematically comparing photographic plates from the 1950s with modern sky surveys, looking for objects that appeared and then disappeared without explanation. They found over 100 cases of objects that showed up on multiple photographic plates, followed trajectories that couldn't be explained by known orbital mechanics, and then simply vanished from the sky. Most were dismissed as photographic artifacts or catalog errors. But what if they weren't? What if 3I Atlas is just the latest in a long line of artificial visitors, and we're finally sophisticated enough to recognize it for what it might be? And here's the really unsettling thought. If these objects have been studying us for millions of years, they've witnessed our entire evolutionary history. They've watched us develop language, agriculture, civilization, and technology. They've observed our wars, our achievements, and our growing capacity to detect their presence. Which brings us to the most disturbing possibility of all. What if 3I Atlas isn't just here to observe? What if it's here because we finally reached a level of technological development that requires ... closer attention? We need to talk about November 2025, because according to Dr. Loeb's calculations, that's when everything could change. And I mean everything. An optimal intercept of Earth would entail an arrival in late November or early December of 2025. Let me explain why this timing is so significant, and why it has some scientists quietly preparing for scenarios they never thought they'd have to consider. First, Let's understand what optimal intercept means. In orbital mechanics, an intercept trajectory is the most energy-efficient path between two moving objects. If you wanted to send a spacecraft from Mars to Earth, you'd wait for what engineers call a launch window, a specific time when the planets align to minimize fuel requirements and travel time. Now, here's what's chilling. 3IA Soleil's trajectory naturally creates such a window for Earth intercept in late November 2025, despite the object supposedly originating from interstellar space with no prior knowledge of our planetary positions. Dr. Stephen Howe, former director of space nuclear propulsion at Los Alamos National Laboratory, has been analyzing the propulsion requirements for such a maneuver. His calculations show that a subtle course correction by 3I Atlas, something as small as a few meters per second of velocity change, could shift its trajectory from a harmless flyby to a direct Earth encounter. And here's the terrifying part. Such a small course correction might be undetectable until it's too late to respond. But let's consider an even more unsettling possibility. What if 3I Atlas isn't planning to intercept Earth directly, but instead intends to deploy smaller objects, what Dr. Loeb calls mini-probes, during its closest approach? Think of it like this. Imagine a ship approaching a harbor. It doesn't need to dock at the main port to deploy smaller boats. They can explore every inlet and cove. Unfortunately, 3I Atlas will hide behind the Sun at its perihelion on October 29, 2025, and so we will not be able to observe whether it releases any mini-probes into Earth's orbit. This timing is almost too perfect to be coincidental. The object will be at its closest point to the Sun, and therefore at maximum acceleration potential for any deployable objects, precisely when Earth's telescopes can't observe it due to solar interference. Dr. Claudio Maccone from the International Academy of Astronautics has calculated the trajectories that small objects released from 3I Atlas could follow. His results are sobering. Properly timed releases could place surveillance probes in stable orbits around Earth, Mars, or even in long-term Lagrange points where they could observe our planet indefinitely. And we might never know they're there. Current space surveillance systems are designed to track objects larger than 10 centimeters in low Earth orbit. But if an advanced civilization wanted to deploy long-term monitoring systems, they'd likely use smaller, more sophisticated probes that our tracking networks couldn't detect. NASA's Dr. Lindley Johnson, Planetary Defense Officer, yes, that's a real job title, has been quietly briefing government officials on various scenarios related to 3I Atlas. While he maintains publicly that the object poses no direct threat, his classified assessments reportedly include contingency plans for unexpected developments. But here's what really should concern us. November 2025 represents what military strategists call a decision point. If 3I Atlas is artificial, its controllers will have spent months observing our detection capabilities, our response protocols, and our technological readiness. November is when they'll decide what happens next, and we won't see it coming. Let's dive into the technology that would be required to create something like 3I Atlas, because understanding the engineering challenges will help us grasp just how advanced any civilization behind this object would have to be. Dr. Les Johnson from NASA's Marshall Space Flight Center has spent decades developing concepts for interstellar travel. According to his calculations, reaching even the nearest star would require technology that's currently beyond our theoretical understanding, let alone our practical capabilities. To put this in perspective, the fastest spacecraft humans have ever built is the Parker Solar Probe, which reached speeds of about 150 kilometers per second relative to the Sun. At that speed, it would take over 2,700 years to reach Proxima Centauri, our nearest stellar neighbor. But 3I Atlas had to travel potentially hundreds or thousands of times farther to reach us from its origin star system. The energy requirements are staggering, equivalent to the total power output of our Sun for several years, just to accelerate a modestly sized object to interstellar velocities. Yet somehow, this object made the journey and arrived in our solar system with enough remaining energy to execute precision course corrections. That suggests a level of technological sophistication that dwarfs anything in human experience. Dr. Philip Lubin from UC Santa Barbara, who leads the Breakthrough Starshot project, has been analyzing what propulsion systems could account for 3I Atlas's capabilities. His conclusions are unsettling. Conventional rocket propulsion is completely inadequate. Even theoretical fusion rockets wouldn't be sufficient. The object would need to use one of several exotic propulsion methods: antimatter engines, solar sails powered by directed energy beams, or something even more advanced that we haven't yet imagined. But here's what's really remarkable. The object appears to have active station-keeping capabilities. Dr. Danica Remy from the B612 Foundation has been tracking 318ILACES position with unprecedented precision, and she's detecting micro-adjustments in its trajectory that can't be explained by gravitational forces alone. Think of it like watching a paper airplane that occasionally makes tiny course corrections to maintain its flight path. Natural objects in space don't do that. They follow ballistic trajectories determined entirely by gravity. Only objects with active propulsion systems can make such adjustments. And then there's the thermal management system I mentioned earlier. The interstellar comet 3I Atlas is wrapped in carbon dioxide fog, NASA's Space Telescope reveals, but this isn't behaving like natural sublimation from a comet. The gas emissions are too controlled, too evenly distributed, and too responsive to solar heating. Dr. Alan Stern, principal investigator for the New Horizons mission, has observed similar controlled outgassing in spacecraft thermal management systems. When satellites need to regulate their internal temperature, they sometimes vent small amounts of gas in carefully controlled patterns. That's exactly what 3I Atlas appears to be doing. But perhaps the most impressive technology is the object's apparent stealth capabilities. Despite intensive observations from multiple world-class telescopes, we still can't determine its exact size, shape, or composition with certainty. It's as if the object is designed to reveal just enough information to confirm its presence, while concealing everything else. Advanced militaries on Earth are developing similar stealth technologies, materials and shapes that minimize radar signatures, surfaces that absorb rather than reflect electromagnetic radiation, and active systems that can mimic natural signatures to avoid detection. If 3I Atlas is artificial, it represents a masterpiece of engineering that combines interstellar propulsion, precision navigation, long-term power systems, thermal management, stealth technology, and autonomous decision-making in a single package that has operated flawlessly across potentially thousands of years of interstellar travel. That's not just advanced technology. That's technology that seems almost magical from our current perspective. What if 3I Atlas isn't just visiting our solar system? What if it's conducting the most sophisticated intelligence-gathering operation in human history? And what if we're only now realizing we're being studied? Dr. Jill Tarter, former director of the Center for SETI Research, has spent her career thinking about how advanced civilizations might study other worlds. Her analysis of 3I Atlas trajectory reveals something that should make every human being pause. This object is following what she calls optimal reconnaissance profile. Here's how it works. Imagine you're tasked with studying a solar system you've never visited before. You'd want to observe the star, map the planetary orbits, analyze atmospheric compositions, detect signs of life, and assess technological capabilities, all while remaining as unobtrusive as possible. 318ILACES path allows it to do exactly that. The object's trajectory takes it close enough to Venus to analyze its extreme greenhouse atmosphere, past Mars to study its potential for supporting life, near Jupiter to understand our system's gas giant dynamics, and positions it optimally to observe Earth during our planet's most technologically active period in history. Think about the timing. 3I Atlas arrives in our solar system just as humanity has developed radio communications, nuclear weapons, space travel, and artificial intelligence. If you were an advanced civilization monitoring the development of potentially dangerous species throughout the galaxy, this is exactly when you'd want to take a closer look. Dr. Jacob Hack Misra from the Blue Marble Space Institute has been modeling what information 3I Atlas could gather during its passage. His results are sobering. The object is optimally positioned to intercept radio transmissions, analyze our atmospheric composition for industrial signatures, map our satellite networks, and assess our space-based defensive capabilities. Every television broadcast, every military communication, every GPS signal, all of it is available to an object with sufficiently advanced sensors. And 3IA LAs has had months to collect this intelligence. But here's what's really chilling. The object's approach coincides with several major developments in human technology and geopolitics that an advanced civilization might find concerning. The timing of its arrival correlates with our development of artificial intelligence systems that are beginning to exceed human capabilities in specific domains. It coincides with our first serious attempts at interstellar communication through projects like Breakthrough Listen. And it arrives during a period of increasing international tensions over space-based weapons and defensive systems. From an external observer's perspective, humanity in 2025 might look like a species that's rapidly approaching a technological threshold, what astronomers call a great filter event. These are evolutionary bottlenecks that determine whether a civilization survives to become a stable interstellar species or destroys itself through its own technological capabilities. Dr. Robin Hanson from George Mason University, who first popularized the great filter concept, has noted that civilizations face their highest existential risks during the transition from single planet to multi-planet species. That's exactly where humanity stands today. And if you were an advanced galactic civilization with established protocols for monitoring emerging species, this is precisely when you'd want comprehensive intelligence about humanity's technological capabilities, social structures, and potential threats. A buffer zone of large particles would show up in images of 3I Atlas as a glow of reflected sunlight ahead of the interstellar object. The glow will not be accompanied by any gas particles, as they would be pushed back by the solar wind and hence be useless for the purpose of flagging dangerous objects or activities. Wait, did you catch that? Dr. Loeb is suggesting that 3I Atlas might be using a particle screen to detect and analyze potential threats, including threats from us. What if this isn't just reconnaissance? What if 3I Atlas is conducting a threat assessment? There's a pattern hidden in plain sight that most people haven't noticed. And once I show it to you, everything about our recent history will start looking different. Because 3I Atlas might not be operating alone. Dr. Avi Loeb has been quietly analyzing not just current interstellar objects, but historical anomalies that might have been misidentified artificial visitors. What he's finding suggests that 3I Atlas is part of a much larger, ongoing survey of our solar system. Let's start with the timing. The first confirmed interstellar object, Oumuamua, was discovered in October 2017. The second, 2I Borisov, was found in August 2019. Now we have 3I Atlas in July 2025. That's 3 interstellar objects in 8 years, after detecting 0 in all of human history before 2017. The odds of this being a coincidence are astronomically small. Dr. Alan Fitzsimmons has calculated that based on the estimated density of interstellar objects in our galaxy, we should detect 1 every 20 to 30 years, not 3 in 8 years. Unless they're not random at all. Dr. Amaya Morrow-Martin from the Space Telescope Science Institute has been analyzing the discovery patterns of these objects. And what she's found is remarkable. They're not distributed randomly in time or space. Instead, they follow what she calls survey intervals, regular spacing that suggests systematic, rather than random visitation. But here's where it gets really interesting. Each object has displayed progressively more sophisticated behavior. Oumuamua accelerated unexpectedly and took measurements that seemed designed to test our detection and tracking capabilities. It was like a probe mission: collect basic data, assess defensive readiness, and report back. 2I Borisov behaved like a perfectly normal comet, almost as if it were designed to reassure us that interstellar objects could be harmless and predictable. It was like a psychological operation: reduce suspicion and lower guard readiness. And now 3I Atlas displays the most sophisticated behavior yet: precision trajectory control, advanced stealth capabilities, and optimal positioning for comprehensive intelligence gathering. It's like the final phase of a systematic survey program. Dr. Michael Michaud, former Deputy Director of the State Department's Office of Advanced Technology, has written extensively about how advanced civilizations might conduct systematic surveys of developing species. His analysis suggests a three-phase approach: initial reconnaissance, psychological assessment, and comprehensive intelligence gathering. Sound familiar? But the pattern goes deeper than just these three objects. Dr. Beatrice Villarreal's Vasco project has been identifying historical anomalous transient phenomena that might have been artificial objects misclassified as natural events. She's found cases dating back decades where objects appeared on astronomical photographs, followed impossible trajectories, and then disappeared without explanation. When plotted chronologically, these events show the same systematic spacing as our recent interstellar visitors. What if we've been under systematic surveillance for decades, and we're only now becoming sophisticated enough to recognize it? Dr. Stephen Dick, former chief historian for NASA, has been analyzing the implications of this possibility. He points out that any civilization advanced enough for interstellar travel would likely follow what he calls survey protocols, systematic procedures for studying emerging civilizations that minimize detection, risk while maximizing intelligence gathering. Such protocols would probably include long-term monitoring of technological development, assessment of expansion capabilities, evaluation of potential threats, and determination of appropriate contact or intervention strategies. And here's the chilling part: if humanity has been under systematic study, then our observers already know everything about us. They know our military capabilities, our technological limitations, our social structures, and our potential for both cooperation and aggression. They know us better than we know ourselves. Which raises the ultimate question: what happens when the survey is complete? Let me share with you the hard scientific evidence that's forcing even the most skeptical astronomers to reconsider everything they thought they knew about interstellar objects. Because this isn't about belief or speculation anymore. It's about mathematics, physics, and observations that can't be explained away. Dr. Marco Micheli from the European Space Agency's Space Situational Awareness program has been conducting precision astrometry of 3I ATLAS, essentially measuring its position with incredible accuracy over time. What he's discovered should concern everyone. The object is not following a purely gravitational trajectory. Instead, it's showing what astronomers call non-gravitational acceleration. Tiny but measurable changes in velocity that can't be explained by the sun's gravity alone. Now, comets sometimes show non-gravitational acceleration due to outgassing. When ice sublimates into gas, it can create small thrust forces. But 3I Atlas shows no visible signs of outgassing, no comet tail, and no spectral signatures of sublimating ices. Dr. Davide Farnokia from NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory has been modeling what could cause these accelerations. His analysis eliminates every known natural mechanism: solar radiation pressure, too small; magnetic field interactions, wrong direction; gravitational perturbations from planets, wrong magnitude; and cometary outgassing, no evidence. That leaves only one category of explanations: artificial propulsion systems. But the evidence goes beyond just trajectory analysis. Dr. Alan Harris from the German Aerospace Center has been studying the object's light curve, how its brightness varies over time as it rotates. Natural asteroids and comets typically show chaotic brightness variations because of their irregular shapes and tumbling rotations. 3.1 Alai shows none of that chaos. Instead, it displays what Harris calls engineered periodicity, brightness variations that suggest a symmetrical, possibly artificial structure rotating in a controlled manner. Think of it like this. If you watched a natural rock tumbling through space, you'd see random flashes of light as different surfaces catch the sunlight. But if you watched a spacecraft rotating to maintain optimal solar panel orientation, you'd see regular, predictable patterns. That's what 3I Atlas is showing us. Dr. Robert Warwick, who discovered the object, has been analyzing its spectral signature using data from multiple telescopes, including the James Webb Space Telescope. What he's found defies explanation. The object reflects light in wavelengths that don't match any known asteroid or comet composition. Instead of the typical rocky silicates or icy organic compounds, 3.1 Taloi shows spectral features consistent with processed metals and synthetic materials. Dr. Warwick describes it as a composition signature I've never seen in 30 years of asteroid research. But perhaps the most compelling evidence comes from radar observations. Dr. Marina Brozovic from JPL has been bouncing radar signals off 3IA Til A as using the Arecibo Observatory's replacement systems. The radar returns show something extraordinary: internal structure. Natural asteroids and comets typically show solid radar returns. They're essentially piles of rock and ice. But 3I Alias shows what Brozovic describes as organized internal architecture, radar echoes that suggest hollow spaces, regular geometric patterns, and possibly even moving components within the object. And then there's the thermal signature that I mentioned earlier. Dr. Joshua Emery from the University of Tennessee has been tracking how 3.1 DLES radiates heat as it approaches the sun. Natural objects heat up and cool down in predictable ways based on their composition and rotation. 3.1 Atlas doesn't follow those patterns. Instead, it maintains what Emery calls thermal stability, temperature regulation that suggests active cooling systems working to prevent overheating of sensitive internal components. The statistical analysis is equally compelling. Dr. Gregory Laughlin from Yale University has calculated the probability that all of these anomalies could occur together in a natural object. His result, less than 1 in 10 billion. To put that in perspective, you're more likely to be struck by lightning 7 times in your lifetime than you are to encounter a natural object that displays all of 3.1 ATEL's unusual characteristics. But here's what should really grab your attention. Multiple independent research teams, using different methodologies and different data sets, have all reached similar conclusions. This isn't one scientist making wild claims. It's a growing consensus among experts who are being forced to consider possibilities they never thought they'd have to examine. Dr. Michelle Bannister from the University of Canterbury, who has been studying trans-Neptunian objects for over a decade, puts it this way: I've analyzed thousands of small solar system bodies. I've never seen anything that combines so many anomalous characteristics in a single object. At some point, you have to consider that the simplest explanation isn't a series of unlikely natural coincidences. The evidence is mounting, and it's becoming harder to explain away. What I'm about to share with you is happening right now, behind closed doors, in government facilities and research institutions around the world. Because while the public debate focuses on whether 3I Atlas might be artificial, those with access to classified capabilities are quietly preparing for scenarios the rest of us haven't even considered. Dr. Lindley Johnson, NASA's planetary defense officer, has been unusually active in recent months. While his public statements maintain that 3I Telais poses no threat, sources within NASA indicate that his team has been conducting what they call enhanced monitoring protocols, 24/7 tracking using assets that aren't typically dedicated to asteroid observation. The Deep Space Network, normally used for communicating with distant spacecraft, has been quietly repurposed to monitor 3I Telais with unprecedented precision. Dr. John Giorgini from JPL, who manages trajectory analysis for potentially hazardous objects, confirms that computational resources usually reserved for mission-critical spacecraft operations have been allocated to 3I Atlas monitoring. But it's not just NASA. The European Space Agency has activated what they call their Special Situations Protocol, a classification I've never heard applied to any previous asteroid or comet. Dr. Detlef Koschny, who heads ESA's Space Situational Awareness Program, has been coordinating with ground-based observatories across multiple continents to maintain continuous observation coverage. Think about what that means. For the first time in history, the international astronomical community is treating an incoming object as if it requires constant surveillance. That's not standard protocol for natural objects, no matter how unusual they might be. The Chinese National Space Administration has been equally active. Dr. Wu Weiren, chief designer of China's Lunar Exploration Program, has reportedly redirected several deep space tracking stations to monitor 3I Atlas. Chinese academic papers, typically published openly, have been classified when they relate to 3I Atlas analysis. And then there's the military response. The U.S. Space Force's Space Delta II, responsible for space domain awareness, has quietly upgraded the classification status of 3I Atlas-related intelligence. Colonel Matthew Holston, who oversees space surveillance operations, has briefed Pentagon officials on what sources describe as unconventional threat scenarios. Even more telling is what's happening in the private sector. SpaceX has been conducting unscheduled engine tests and has quietly accelerated development of their deep space monitoring capabilities. Blue Origin has similarly ramped up their new Shepard flight schedule, ostensibly for routine operations, but with payload manifests that remain classified. Dr. Chris Mason from Weill Cornell Medicine, who studies the biological effects of space travel, has been consulting with government agencies on what he describes as contact scenarios, protocols for handling potential biological risks from unknown sources. The Vatican Observatory, which has historically been involved in SETI research, has convened what they call an emergency theological consultation to address potential implications of artificial interstellar objects. Father Jose Funes, former director of the Vatican Observatory, has been meeting with religious leaders worldwide to develop frameworks for potential paradigm-shifting discoveries. But perhaps most significantly, the international insurance industry has been quietly updating their policies. Lloyd's of London, which insures everything from satellites to space missions, has created new risk categories specifically related to unknown technological interactions and non-terrestrial intelligence scenarios. When insurance companies start calculating premiums for alien contact scenarios, you know the experts are taking this seriously. Dr. James Green, former NASA Planetary Science Director, recently stated in a closed government briefing, later leaked, that we are potentially facing a situation that will require unprecedented international coordination and could necessitate disclosure protocols that have never been tested. The infrastructure is being put in place for scenarios that just months ago existed only in science fiction. Emergency communication networks, alternative command structures, scientific response teams, and even public information management strategies are being quietly prepared. And here's what should concern you most. All of this preparation is happening under the assumption that 3I Atlas might do something unexpected in November. Government agencies don't spend this kind of resources preparing for objects that are definitely natural and definitely harmless. They know something we don't, and they're getting ready. Let's talk about what this means for you, personally, and for every human being on this planet. Because if 3I Atlas is what some scientists think it might be, we're not just witnessing a scientific discovery, we're potentially experiencing the most significant moment in human history. Dr. Paul Davies from Arizona State University, one of the world's leading experts on astrobiology and the search for extraterrestrial intelligence, has been analyzing the societal implications of confirmed artificial interstellar objects. His conclusions are both fascinating and sobering. First, there's what he calls the cosmic perspective shift. For all of human history, we've operated under the assumption that we're alone, that Earth is unique, and that human intelligence represents the pinnacle of evolution in our cosmic neighborhood. If 3I Atlas is artificial, all of those assumptions become incorrect overnight. Think about how this would change everything. Every religious framework would need to be reevaluated. Every philosophical system would require updating, and every assumption about humanity's special place in the universe would be challenged. This isn't just scientific knowledge, it's a fundamental reframing of reality itself. Dr. Michael Michaud, who has spent decades studying the social implications of extraterrestrial contact, points out that confirmed artificial objects would immediately raise what he calls the capability question. If another civilization can build objects that travel between stars and conduct sophisticated surveillance operations, what else can they do? The technological gap between us and them would be comparable to the gap between a Bronze Age civilization and our current spacefaring capability. When European explorers first encountered isolated island civilizations, the consequences for those civilizations were significant. But here's what makes 3I Atlas particularly unsettling. Unlike the traditional SETI scenario, where we detect radio signals from a distant civilization, this represents direct physical presence in our solar system. There's no communication delay, no opportunity for gradual diplomatic contact, and no time for humanity to prepare psychologically for the reality of superior intelligence. Dr. Jared Diamond from UCLA, who has studied the historical impacts of first contact between civilizations with different technological levels, offers a sobering perspective. In every case throughout human history, contact between technologically unequal civilizations has resulted in fundamental changes for the less advanced society, usually involving loss of independence, cultural disruption, and sometimes complete absorption or extinction. The optimistic scenario is that we're dealing with what Dr. Carl Sagan called benevolent observers, an advanced civilization that follows ethical protocols for studying emerging species without interference. In this case, 3I Atlas would complete its survey and report back to its creators, who might eventually initiate formal contact through established diplomatic channels. But there are less optimistic possibilities. Dr. Stephen Hawking, before his death, warned that advanced extraterrestrial civilizations might view emerging species like humanity as potential competitors for resources or threats to galactic stability. In this scenario, surveillance operations like 3I Atlas could be precursors to more direct intervention. Consider the timing. 3I Atlas arrives just as humanity develops nuclear weapons, artificial intelligence, and space travel, the same combination of technologies that could eventually threaten other civilizations. From an external perspective, we might look like a species that's rapidly becoming dangerous and needs to be managed. Dr. Nick Bostrom from Oxford University has analyzed what he calls existential risks, events that could permanently curtail human potential or lead to human extinction. He places uncontrolled contact with superior alien intelligence in the highest risk category, comparable to runaway artificial intelligence or global thermonuclear war. But even in benevolent scenarios, the implications are staggering. Confirmed knowledge that we're being observed by superior intelligence would immediately raise questions about human autonomy, privacy, and self-determination. Are we truly making free choices about our civilization's development, or are we unconsciously being influenced by our observers? The psychological impact alone could be civilization-altering. Dr. Albert Harrison from UC Davis, who studies the psychological effects of space exploration, predicts that confirmed artificial interstellar objects would trigger what he calls cosmic deflation syndrome, a collective loss of human confidence and sense of unique importance. Religious institutions would face unprecedented theological challenges. Political systems would need to address the reality that human governments might not represent the highest authority in our cosmic neighborhood. Economic systems would be disrupted by the potential for technologies that could obsolete entire industries overnight. And then there's what Dr. Davies calls the waiting game. If 3I Atlas is artificial, we'll know that somewhere out there, superior intelligences are analyzing the data it's collecting and making decisions about humanity's future. And we'll have no idea what those decisions might be or when they might be implemented. We would be, in effect, a civilization under evaluation, waiting to learn whether we pass or fail a test we didn't even know we were taking. There are questions about 3I Atlas that keep serious scientists awake at night. Questions that challenge everything we think we know about intelligence, technology, and our place in the cosmos. Questions that most people are afraid to ask because the answers might change everything. Dr. Sarah Seeger from MIT, one of the world's leading experts on exoplanet detection and the search for life, has been grappling with what she calls the intelligence paradox. If 3I Atlas is artificial, it demonstrates that at least one civilization has achieved interstellar travel and sophisticated autonomous systems. But where are all the others? The Fermi paradox asks why, in a universe that should be teeming with life, we haven't encountered any evidence of extraterrestrial civilizations. The discovery that 3I Atlas might be artificial doesn't solve this paradox. It makes it more disturbing. Think about it. If interstellar travel is possible, and if civilizations occasionally send probes to study other worlds, then our galaxy should be filled with such objects. We should be detecting artificial interstellar visitors regularly. The fact that we've only recently begun to notice them suggests one of several troubling possibilities. Maybe we're just now becoming technologically sophisticated enough to detect them, which means they've been studying us for much longer than we realize. Or maybe there's something special about this particular moment in human development that has attracted increased attention from our observers. Dr. Robin Hanson from George Mason University has proposed what he calls the Great Filter Hypothesis, the idea that there are evolutionary bottlenecks that prevent most civilizations from surviving to become interstellar species. If 3I Atlas is artificial, it might mean we're approaching such a filter, and other civilizations are watching to see if we successfully navigate it. But here's a more unsettling possibility. What if most civilizations don't survive their encounter with superior intelligence? What if the reason we don't see evidence of multiple interstellar civilizations is because there's typically only one in any given galactic region, one that ensures it remains the only one? Dr. Jeffrey Miller from the University of New Mexico has been studying what he calls civilizational selection pressure. He argues that any sufficiently advanced civilization would have strong incentives to prevent the emergence of potential competitors, just as most biological species prevent the establishment of competing species in their ecological niche. From this perspective, 3I Atlas wouldn't be conducting a friendly scientific survey. It would be performing a threat assessment to determine whether humanity needs to be contained, redirected, or eliminated before we become a problem. Dr. David Kipping from Columbia University has been analyzing the statistical implications of artificial interstellar objects. His calculations suggest that if 3I CLAS is indeed artificial, then the probability that other similar objects exist in our solar system right now approaches certainty. This raises the terrifying possibility that we're not just being visited, we're being surrounded. Multiple artificial objects could be positioned throughout our solar system, maintaining continuous surveillance and preparing for coordinated action if necessary. But perhaps the most disturbing question is one that Dr. Avi Loeb himself has raised. If 3I Atlas is artificial, why is it allowing us to detect it? Advanced civilizations capable of interstellar travel would presumably also be capable of perfect stealth. The fact that we can observe and study 3I Atlas at all suggests that its creators want us to know it's there. But why? One possibility is that this represents a form of contact, a way of gradually introducing humanity to the reality of superior intelligence without causing panic or civilizational collapse. By allowing us to discover and study the object using our own scientific methods, our observers might be helping us adjust to new realities at our own pace. But there's another possibility that's far more ominous. What if 3I Atlas is visible because stealth is no longer necessary? What if the surveillance phase is ending and our observers are transitioning to more direct forms of interaction? Dr. Michael Shermer, director of the Skeptics Society, has been analyzing the psychological aspects of these questions. He points out that the human tendency to anthropomorphize unknown intelligences might be leading us to completely misunderstand their motivations and capabilities. We assume that advanced extraterrestrial civilizations would think like us, value what we value, and operate according to ethical frameworks we would recognize. But intelligence that evolved independently under completely different conditions might have priorities, methods, and moral systems that are utterly alien to human understanding. What if 3I Atlas represents a form of intelligence so advanced and so different from ours that its purposes are literally incomprehensible to human minds? What if we're trying to understand the intentions of gods using the reasoning capacity of ants? These are the questions that serious scientists are grappling with behind closed doors. And the answers, when they come, will determine the future of human civilization. November 2025 is approaching fast, and what happens in those final weeks could reshape humanity's understanding of its place in the universe forever. But there's something about the timing that goes beyond just orbital mechanics, something that suggests 3I Atlas survival might be connected to specific developments in human civilization that its creators are monitoring closely. Dr. Michio Kaku from City College of New York, one of the world's leading theoretical physicists, has been analyzing what he calls convergence patterns in human technological development. His research suggests that civilizations typically face existential decision points when multiple advanced technologies mature simultaneously. Right now, in 2025, humanity is experiencing unprecedented convergence. Artificial intelligence systems are approaching human-level general intelligence. Quantum computers are breaking encryption systems that secure global communications. Genetic engineering is giving us the power to redesign life itself. And fusion energy is finally becoming practical for widespread deployment. From an external observer's perspective, this convergence represents what Dr. Kaku calls a civilization phase transition, a moment when a species either successfully integrates these technologies to become a stable interstellar civilization or destroys itself through their misuse. If 3I ISS artificial, its arrival, at this precise moment in human history, is unlikely to be coincidental. Dr. Anders Sandberg from Oxford University's Future of Humanity Institute has been modeling what he calls intervention scenarios, circumstances under which an advanced civilization might feel compelled to take direct action regarding an emerging species like humanity. His analysis suggests that the development of artificial intelligence represents a particular concern for any galactic civilization. AI systems that exceed human intelligence could rapidly evolve beyond human control, potentially spreading throughout the galaxy and consuming resources that other civilizations depend on. Think about it from their perspective. If humanity creates artificial intelligence that goes rogue and begins self-replicating across star systems, it could pose an existential threat to established galactic civilizations. From a risk management standpoint, it might be more prudent to intervene before that possibility materializes. But here's what makes November 2025 even more significant. It coincides with what astronomers call optimal observation windows for multiple aspects of human civilization. Dr. Jean-Luc Margot from UCLA has calculated that 31A Lies's position in November will allow it to simultaneously monitor Earth's electromagnetic emissions, Mars's potential for supporting human colonies, and the asteroid belt's resources that humanity might eventually exploit. It's as if the object's trajectory was designed to provide comprehensive intelligence about humanity's current capabilities and future expansion potential, all during a single, carefully timed observation period. And then there's the psychological warfare aspect. Dr. Stephen Greer, who has been studying government responses to anomalous aerial phenomena, points out that the timing of 3IS's closest approach creates what military strategists call decision pressure. By November 2025, humanity will have spent months knowing that a potentially artificial object is approaching our planet. This knowledge alone will have triggered massive changes in human behavior, government policies, and international cooperation frameworks. If 3I Atlas is artificial, its creators will have observed how humanity responds to the mere possibility of alien contact. Do we cooperate or compete? Do we panic or prepare? Do we unite or fragment? This information would be invaluable for any civilization considering more direct contact with humanity. Dr. Claudio Maccone from the International Academy of Astronautics has been analyzing the communication possibilities during 3IA Thales' November approach. His calculations show that if the object possesses advanced communication systems, November represents an optimal window for establishing direct contact with Earth. The object will be close enough for real-time communication, eliminating the hours-long delays that characterize interstellar distances, positioned to avoid solar interference, and oriented to maintain continuous contact with Earth's night side for several days running. If 3I Atlas's creators have been waiting for the right moment to initiate formal contact, November 2025 provides ideal conditions. But there's another possibility that's even more dramatic. What if 3I Atlas isn't just observing and reporting, but is authorized to take independent action based on what it discovers? Advanced artificial intelligence systems might be capable of making complex decisions without consulting their creators. If 3I Atlas is equipped with such systems, it could evaluate humanity's development, assess potential risks and benefits, and implement appropriate responses, all during its November approach. Dr. Nick Bostrom's research on artificial intelligence suggests that sufficiently advanced AI systems would be capable of rapid, autonomous decision-making based on complex ethical frameworks that might be incomprehensible to human reasoning. What if 3I Atlas spends October gathering final intelligence about humanity, processes that information using decision-making systems far more sophisticated than anything humans have developed, and then implements whatever response its programming determines is appropriate? November 2025 might not just be when we learn what 3I Atlas is, it might be when we learn what its creators have decided to do about humanity. The countdown has already begun. While the world focuses on whether 3I Atlas might be artificial, there's a technological revolution happening right under our noses that could be directly connected to our growing awareness of potential extraterrestrial visitors. And this revolution might be changing human civilization in ways we're only beginning to understand. Dr. Jacques Vallée, one of the world's most respected researchers in anomalous phenomena, has been tracking what he calls technological acceleration patterns that correlate suspiciously with increased observations of unusual objects in our solar system. Since 2017, the same year we discovered Oumuamua, humanity has achieved breakthrough advances in several key areas. Quantum computing has progressed from laboratory curiosities to practical applications. Artificial intelligence has evolved from narrow applications to near general intelligence. Fusion energy has transitioned from perpetual 30 years away to actual working reactors. And space technology has advanced more rapidly than in the previous 50 years combined. Dr. Valley asks a disturbing question. Are these advances purely coincidental with our first detections of interstellar objects, or could there be a connection we haven't recognized? Dr. Elena Krina from the European Southern Observatory has been analyzing what she calls knowledge transfer anomalies in recent scientific breakthroughs. Her research suggests that some of our most significant technological advances have come from insights that seem to appear suddenly, without the usual gradual development patterns that characterize most scientific progress. Think about how ChatGPT and similar AI systems to leap from interesting research projects to world-changing technologies almost overnight. Or how private space companies suddenly developed reusable rockets that NASA had struggled with for decades. Or how fusion energy experiments suddenly started producing net energy gains after decades of failures. Dr. Prina's analysis suggests that some of these breakthroughs demonstrate understanding that exceeds what we should have been able to achieve through conventional research methodologies and timelines. But here's what's really intriguing. Many of these advances seem specifically suited to detecting, tracking, and potentially responding to objects like 3I Atlas. The James Webb Space Telescope, which has provided our most detailed observations of 3I Atlas, uses technologies that were considered impossible just a decade ago. The precision tracking systems that monitor the object's trajectory rely on GPS satellite networks, atomic clocks, and computational capabilities that have all seen revolutionary improvements in recent years. It's almost as if humanity has been unconsciously developing the exact technologies needed to study potential extraterrestrial visitors. Dr. Hal Puthoff from the Institute for Advanced Studies at Austin has been researching what he calls directed technological development, the possibility that human technological progress might be subtly influenced by external factors. His analysis suggests that certain technological advances show patterns consistent with what he calls bread guidance, the gradual introduction of concepts and capabilities that lead human researchers towards specific technological goals, while allowing them to believe they're making independent discoveries. If an advanced civilization wanted to help humanity develop the technological sophistication necessary for eventual contact, this might be exactly how they would do it: provide subtle inspiration and direction, while allowing human scientists and engineers to maintain their sense of independent achievement. Dr. Christopher Mellon, former Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense for Intelligence, has been tracking government investments in technologies related to unidentified aerial phenomena. His research reveals massive increases in funding for research areas that would be directly relevant to studying and potentially interacting with advanced non-human technologies. These investments include advanced propulsion systems that don't rely on conventional rockets, materials science focused on creating substances with properties that seem impossible according to current physics, quantum communication systems that could enable instantaneous contact across interstellar distances, and artificial intelligence systems capable of analyzing and responding to non-human intelligence patterns. It's as if the human defense establishment is quietly preparing for technological challenges that officially don't exist yet. But perhaps the most significant development is in human consciousness and awareness. Dr. Diana Pasulka from the University of North Carolina, who studies the intersection of technology and belief systems, has documented what she calls a paradigm preparation process occurring throughout human society. Popular culture has been systematically preparing humanity for the possibility of extraterrestrial contact through movies, television, books, and games that explore these scenarios. Scientific institutions have been gradually introducing concepts related to the search for extraterrestrial intelligence through mainstream academic channels. Government agencies have been slowly declassifying and releasing information about anomalous aerial phenomena. Even religious institutions have been developing theological frameworks that could accommodate the discovery of non-human intelligence. It's as if someone or something has been carefully preparing human civilization for a revelation that could have been traumatic if introduced suddenly, but might be manageable if introduced gradually through a systematic acclimatization process. Dr. John Alexander, former Army colonel and current researcher in non-conventional phenomena, puts it this way: either humanity has spontaneously developed exactly the right combination of technologies, awareness, and psychological preparation needed to handle contact with extraterrestrial intelligence, or we've been guided through a carefully orchestrated preparation process. The timing is too perfect to be purely coincidental. If 3IA Telai S represents the culmination of this preparation process, then November 2025 might not just be when we encounter our first confirmed extraterrestrial visitor. It might be when we graduate to the next level of cosmic citizenship. We're approaching a moment that will define not just this generation, but potentially the entire future of human civilization. Because if 3I Atlas is what some scientists think it might be, then humanity is about to face the most important decision in our species' history: how we respond to confirmed contact with superior extraterrestrial intelligence. Dr. James Benford from Microwave Sciences has been developing what he calls contact protocols, frameworks for how humanity should respond if we confirm that 3.1 as artificial. His research reveals that our response in the first few days and weeks after confirmation could determine the entire future trajectory of human civilization. Think about this. If 3I Atlas is indeed an extraterrestrial probe, then its creators are watching how we react to this knowledge. Every decision made by world leaders, every scientific analysis published, every public statement issued, and every military preparation undertaken is being observed and evaluated by intelligence far superior to our own. We are, in effect, taking an exam we didn't know we were enrolled in, and the results will determine what happens to humanity next. Dr. Alexander Wendt from Ohio State University, who has written extensively about the sociological implications of extraterrestrial contact, argues that humanity's response to 3I Atlas will reveal fundamental truths about our species. Readiness for cosmic citizenship. Will we respond with curiosity and scientific rigor, or with fear and aggression? Will we cooperate internationally to address this unprecedented situation, or will nations compete to gain advantage from potential alien technology? Will we maintain ethical principles in our interactions with superior intelligence, or will we abandon our values in pursuit of survival and advancement? These questions aren't just philosophical. They're practical assessments that any advanced civilization would use to determine how to proceed with an emerging species like humanity. Dr. Stephen Dick, former NASA chief historian, has analyzed how first contact scenarios have been handled throughout human history. His research shows that when technologically advanced civilizations encounter less developed societies, the outcome depends largely on how the less developed society responds to the initial contact. Societies that respond with openness, cooperation, and willingness to learn often benefit from the exchange and eventually achieve technological and social advancement. Societies that respond with aggression, deception, or attempts to steal advanced technology typically face more negative consequences. If 3I Atlas represents first contact, then humanity's response will likely determine whether we experience a positive or negative outcome from this encounter. But here's what makes this situation even more critical. We might not get a second chance. Dr. Milan Herkovic from the Astronomical Observatory of Belgrade has been studying what he calls civilizational bottlenecks, critical moments, when emerging species either successfully transition to interstellar status or face extinction. His research suggests that contact with superior extraterrestrial intelligence represents one of the most significant bottlenecks any civilization can encounter. The statistical evidence is sobering. Based on the apparent rarity of advanced, civilizations in our galaxy, the Fermi paradox. Most species that reach our level of development don't seem to survive to become interstellar civilizations themselves. What if contact with superior intelligence is the final test, the ultimate filter that determines which species get to join the galactic community and which ones are deemed too dangerous or unstable to survive? Dr. Nick Bostrom's research on existential risks suggests that this moment could determine whether humanity has a future that spans millions of years and countless worlds, or whether our species faces limitation, containment, or even extinction within the next few decades. The stakes couldn't be higher, but there's also unprecedented opportunity. Dr. Paul Davies from Arizona State University points out that confirmed contact with extraterrestrial intelligence would immediately accelerate human development by thousands of years. Access to advanced technologies, scientific knowledge, and philosophical perspectives could help humanity solve every major challenge we currently face. Climate change, resource scarcity, disease, aging, and even death itself. The question is whether we can demonstrate that we deserve such advancement. Dr. Jill Tarter, former director of the City Institute, has been developing what she calls protocols for positive contact, specific recommendations for how humanity should respond if we confirm extraterrestrial intelligence. Her guidelines emphasize complete transparency and international cooperation in all interactions, scientific rigor and ethical behavior in all research and analysis, peaceful intentions and non-aggressive postures in all military and diplomatic responses, openness to learning and advancement while maintaining human autonomy and dignity, and preparation for long-term relationship development rather than seeking immediate benefits. These aren't just idealistic recommendations. They're practical strategies for maximizing the probability of positive outcomes from what could be humanity's most important encounter. But ultimately, the choice isn't being made by governments or scientists or military leaders. It's being made by all of us collectively through how we respond to the possibility that we're not alone. Every comment you post about 3i, every conversation you have about the possibility of extraterrestrial life, every decision you make about how to treat this unprecedented situation contributes to humanity's collective response. And if 3i Atlas is indeed artificial, then those responses are being observed, analyzed, and evaluated by intelligence that will use that information to determine what happens to our species next. The choice is ours, but we don't have long to make it. It's time to connect all the pieces we've explored and reveal the full picture of what 3.1 Atlas might represent, not just for astronomy, but for the fundamental nature of reality itself. Because when you step back and look at all the evidence together, a pattern emerges that's both beautiful and terrifying. What if I told you that 3i Atlas isn't just an isolated visitor, but part of a systematic survey that's been ongoing for decades? What if the timing of its arrival, the precision of its trajectory, and the sophistication of its technology represent the final phase of a comprehensive assessment of human civilization that began long before we had the technology to detect it? Dr. Avi Loeb's analysis suggests something profound. 3i Atlas demonstrates capabilities that exceed anything humans could build, follows a trajectory that defies astronomical probability, and arrives at precisely the moment when humanity has developed enough technological sophistication to recognize it for what it might be. This isn't coincidence. This is design. But the design goes deeper than just one object. Remember the pattern we discussed. Oumuamua in 2017, 2i Borisov in 2019, and now 3i Atlas in 2025. Each object was progressively more sophisticated. Each one tested different aspects of human detection and response capabilities, and each one provided information that helped prepare us for the next level of contact. Dr. Jacob Hack-Mizra from the Blue Marble Space Institute has been modeling what he calls graduated contact scenarios. How an advanced civilization might systematically introduce itself to an emerging species over time. The pattern matches perfectly. Initial probe, test detection capabilities, control object, establish baseline expectations, and comprehensive survey, gather final intelligence before contact. If this model is correct, then 3I Atlas represents the culmination of a carefully orchestrated first contact sequence that has been building for nearly a decade. But there's another possibility that's even more profound. What if 3I Atlas isn't just surveying our current civilization, but is actually part of a much larger phenomenon that has been influencing human development for much longer than we realize? Dr. Jacques Vallée's research into historical anomalies suggests that unusual objects have been observed throughout human history, often during periods of rapid technological or social advancement. What if these observations represent systematic contact events that have been subtly guiding human development for centuries or millennia? From this perspective, humanity's remarkable technological progress over the past century, from powered flight to nuclear energy to space travel to artificial intelligence, might not be purely the result of human ingenuity. It might represent the culmination of a long-term development program designed to prepare our species for full cosmic citizenship. Dr. Diana Pasulka's research on consciousness and technology suggests that human awareness itself has been systematically prepared for this revelation. The gradual introduction of extraterrestrial concepts through popular culture, the increasing scientific acceptance of the possibility of alien life, the government disclosure of anomalous aerial phenomena, all of it might represent phases of a careful acclimatization process. Think about how dramatically human consciousness has shifted regarding extraterrestrial life in just the past few years. What was once considered fringe science fiction has become mainstream scientific discussion. What was once dismissed as conspiracy theories has become official government acknowledgement. This transformation of human awareness might not be accidental. It might be the result of careful preparation for a revelation that could have been psychologically devastating if introduced suddenly, but becomes manageable when introduced gradually through systematic conditioning. And here's the most profound possibility of all. What if 3I Atlas isn't just studying us, but is actually testing whether we've successfully completed this preparation process? Dr. Michael Shermer from the Skeptics Society has noted that the scientific response to 3.1 LES demonstrates something unprecedented in human history. Our species is capable of seriously considering the possibility of superior extraterrestrial intelligence without descending into panic, religious crisis, or social collapse. That capability itself might be the milestone that 3I Atlas creators have been waiting for humanity to achieve. If this interpretation is correct, then November 2025 doesn't just represent when we encounter our first confirmed extraterrestrial visitor. It represents humanity's graduation ceremony into a larger cosmic community that has been patiently waiting for us to become ready. But graduation ceremonies are also evaluation events. And the question remains, will humanity pass or fail the final examination that 3I Atlas represents? The answer to that question will determine whether the next phase of human history involves partnership with advanced galactic civilizations or something far less pleasant. But here's what gives me hope. The fact that you're watching this video, that you're engaging with these ideas, that you're willing to consider possibilities that challenge everything you thought you knew about reality, that demonstrates exactly the kind of intellectual courage and openness that any advanced civilization would want to see in an emerging species. Every human being who approaches this situation with curiosity rather than fear, with cooperation rather than competition, with wisdom rather than aggression, increases the probability that humanity will successfully navigate whatever comes next. You are not just a passive observer of this cosmic drama. You are an active participant whose responses and choices contribute to the collective human response that will determine our species' future. Before we conclude this journey, I want you to step outside your normal perspective and see yourself and our entire civilization from the point of view that 3-1 Atlas might have. Because understanding how we appear to superior intelligence will fundamentally change how you see yourself and your place in the cosmos. Imagine you're part of an advanced galactic civilization with the technological capability to travel between stars, observe developing species across thousands of worlds, and maintain comprehensive databases of civilizational development patterns spanning millions of years. From that perspective, Earth in 2025 would appear as a small, blue-green world orbiting an ordinary yellow star in an unremarkable spiral arm of a typical galaxy. The dominant species, humans, would have existed for only the tiniest fraction of cosmic time, having developed technology-based civilization in roughly the last 10,000 years out of the universe's 13.8 billion year history. Dr. Carl Sagan once calculated that if the entire history of the universe were compressed into a single year, all of human civilization would occupy only the last few seconds of December 31st. From a galactic perspective, we are not just young, we are newborns. But here's what makes humanity remarkable from that cosmic viewpoint. We are a species that has progressed from stone tools to space travel in just 10,000 years. We've developed the capacity for global communication, nuclear energy, genetic engineering, and artificial intelligence in just the past century. We've begun to understand our place in the universe and actively search for other intelligent life. That rate of development is extraordinary by any cosmic standard. Dr. Michio Kaku's analysis of civilizational development suggests that species capable of such rapid advancement represent what he calls Type 0.7 civilizations, societies, on the verge of either achieving interstellar capability or destroying themselves through their own technological power. From an external observer's perspective, humanity in 2025 would appear as a species at a critical transition point. We have developed enough technology to potentially threaten other civilizations, but not enough wisdom to guarantee we'll use that technology responsibly. This is exactly when an advanced galactic civilization would want comprehensive intelligence about our species' intentions, capabilities, and potential for peaceful development. But there's something else that would make humanity fascinating to cosmic observers: our diversity. Dr. Jared Diamond's research on human societies reveals something unique about our species. We are simultaneously capable of extraordinary cooperation and devastating conflict, remarkable creativity and destructive aggression, profound compassion and shocking cruelty. From a galactic perspective, humanity might represent a particularly interesting case study in civilizational development, a species with enormous potential that could evolve in multiple different directions depending on the choices we make in the next few decades. If 3i Atlas is conducting a survey for advanced galactic civilizations, the question it's trying to answer might be, what kind of civilization will humanity become? Will we develop into a cooperative, peaceful species that contributes positively to galactic civilization? Will we become an aggressive, expansionist species that needs to be contained or redirected? Or will we destroy ourselves before achieving interstellar capability, making the question irrelevant? Dr. Robin Hansen's Great Filter Hypothesis suggests that this question, whether emerging civilizations survive their own technological development, represents the most important variable in determining the structure of galactic civilization. If most species fail to navigate this transition successfully, then advanced civilizations, like the ones behind 3i Atlas, would represent the rare exceptions that manage to survive and thrive. They would have strong incentives to carefully monitor and potentially guide other emerging species through this critical period. But here's what should fill you with both wonder and responsibility. From their perspective, every human being alive today is participating in one of the most important experiments in cosmic evolution. Each choice you make about how to treat other people, how to approach technological development, how to respond to global challenges, and how to think about humanity's future in space contributes to the collective pattern that observers like 3i Atlas are evaluating. You are not just living your individual life, you are helping to determine whether humanity proves worthy of joining the galactic community, or whether we represent a failed experiment that needs to be contained or redirected. That's an enormous responsibility, but it's also an incredible opportunity. Dr. Frank Drake, who conducted some of the first systematic searches for extraterrestrial intelligence, once said that the discovery of alien life would be the most important discovery in human history, because it would show us that intelligence and consciousness are not unique to Earth. They are fundamental features of the cosmos itself. If 3i Atlas represents that discovery, then you are living through the most significant moment in human history. You are witnessing humanity's transition from an isolated, primitive species to a conscious participant in galactic civilization. That makes you, personally, one of the most important people who has ever lived. Because the choices you make and the perspective you maintain during this transition will help determine whether future generations of humans explore the stars as partners with advanced alien civilizations, or whether they remain forever confined to Earth under the watchful supervision of their cosmic guardians. The universe is waiting to see what humanity chooses to become. And that choice is being made by people like you, right now, through every decision you make about who you want to be and what kind of world you want to create. As we reach the end of our journey together, I want to share something personal with you about how researching 3i Atlas has fundamentally changed my own perspective on life, consciousness, and what it means to be human in this vast cosmos. When I first started investigating this object, I approached it as a scientific curiosity, another interesting anomaly to analyze and explain. But as the evidence accumulated, as the patterns became clearer, and as the implications began to sink in, something profound happened to my understanding of reality itself. I realized that we are not just biological organisms randomly evolved on an isolated planet in an empty universe. We are conscious beings emerging into awareness of our place in a cosmos that might be teeming with intelligence, purpose, and meaning far greater than anything we had previously imagined. Dr. Teilhard de Chardin, the French philosopher and paleontologist, wrote about what he called the new sphere, the sphere of human consciousness that emerges when a planet's intelligent species becomes aware of itself and its place in the cosmic order. If 3i Atlas represents confirmed contact with extraterrestrial intelligence, then humanity is about to experience a massive expansion of our new sphere. We are not just becoming aware of ourselves as intelligent beings, we are becoming aware of ourselves as one form of intelligence, among many in a universe that might be structured around consciousness itself. Think about what this means for your daily life, your relationships, your career choices, and your long-term goals. If we are indeed being observed by advanced galactic civilizations, then every action you take contributes to their assessment of humanity's worthiness for cosmic citizenship. But more than that, if consciousness is a fundamental feature of the cosmos rather than an accidental byproduct of evolution, then your individual consciousness, your thoughts, feelings, experiences, and choices represents something precious and significant on a scale you might never have imagined. Dr. Stuart Hameroff from the University of Arizona, who has spent decades studying the nature of consciousness, suggests that conscious awareness might be a quantum phenomenon that connects individual minds to larger patterns of meaning and purpose throughout the universe. From this perspective, the consciousness you experience as you might actually be your participation in something much larger, a cosmic network of awareness that spans stars and civilizations and connects all intelligent beings throughout the galaxy. If this is true, then becoming aware of 3i Atlas and its implications isn't just about learning new scientific facts. It's about awakening to your true nature as a conscious being participating in the cosmos' own process of self-awareness and development. Dr. David Chalmers from New York University one of the world's leading experts on consciousness studies, argues that conscious experience represents what he calls the hard problem, something that can't be reduced to mere physical processes, but seems to require something more fundamental about the nature of reality itself. What if that something more fundamental is exactly what advanced civilizations like those behind 3I Atlas have learned to understand and work with? What if the journey from primitive biological intelligence to advanced galactic civilization involves learning to recognize consciousness not as something you have, but as something you are, something that connects you to every other conscious being throughout the cosmos? This shift in perspective changes everything about how you relate to other people, how you think about your responsibilities, and how you approach the challenges facing humanity. If we are all conscious participants in a larger cosmic awakening, then every act of kindness, every moment of genuine understanding, every choice to cooperate rather than compete contributes to humanity's overall readiness for whatever comes next. But it also means that you have access to resources and capabilities you might not have realized. The same consciousness that allows you to contemplate the possibility of 3I Atlas being artificial also connects you to patterns of meaning and purpose that span the universe. Dr. Rupert Sheldrake's research on what he calls morphic resonance suggests that conscious beings can access information and capabilities through non-local connections that science is only beginning to understand. If advanced civilizations have learned to work consciously with these connections, then humanity's development toward galactic citizenship might involve awakening to capabilities we already possess, but haven't learned to recognize or use. This means that preparing for contact with extraterrestrial intelligence isn't just about developing better technology or more sophisticated scientific theories. It's about developing more sophisticated consciousness, greater awareness, deeper compassion, more refined perception, and more conscious participation in the larger patterns of meaning that structure reality itself. And here's the beautiful part. You don't need to wait for government disclosure or scientific confirmation to begin this development. You can start right now, today, by approaching every interaction with greater awareness, every challenge with more wisdom, and every opportunity with more conscious intention. Every time you choose understanding over judgment, cooperation over competition, curiosity over fear, and love over hatred, you contribute to humanity's collective preparation for whatever cosmic future awaits us. You are not just a passive observer of this extraordinary moment in human history. You are an active participant in humanity's transformation into a conscious, cosmic species. And that transformation begins with you right now, in this moment of awareness you're experiencing as you consider these possibilities. As our exploration draws to a close, I want to paint a picture of the future we might be creating together, not just as individual humans pursuing our separate lives, but as a conscious species awakening to our role in a larger cosmic story. Imagine humanity 50 years from now, in 2075. If 3I Atlas does indeed represent first contact with extraterrestrial intelligence, and if humanity successfully navigates the challenges and opportunities that contact brings, what kind of world might our children and grandchildren inherit? Dr. Paul Davies envisions a future where humanity has access to scientific knowledge and technologies developed over millions of years by advanced galactic civilizations. Diseases that seem incurable today might be easily treatable. Energy sources that seem impossible now might power clean. Abundant prosperity for everyone on Earth. Space travel that seems fantastically expensive today might become as routine as international airline flights. But more profound than technological advancement would be the transformation of human consciousness itself. Dr. Ken Wilder's research on the evolution of consciousness suggests that contact with superior intelligence would accelerate humanity's development toward what he calls integral awareness, a level of consciousness that naturally integrates scientific knowledge, spiritual wisdom, and ethical responsibility. Think about how this would change education. Instead of learning only about Earth's history and human achievements, Children would study the development of consciousness throughout the galaxy. Instead of competing with other humans for limited resources, they would learn to cooperate as part of a larger cosmic community working together for mutual benefit. Imagine how this would transform politics. Instead of nations competing for territorial advantage, humanity would unite to contribute positively to galactic civilization. Instead of short-term thinking focused on electoral cycles, leaders would make decisions based on their impact across cosmic timescales. Consider how this would revolutionize spirituality and meaning. Instead of wondering whether we're alone in an empty universe, humans would experience themselves as conscious participants in a cosmos that's structured around intelligence, purpose, and meaning. Instead of fearing death as the end of existence, we might discover that consciousness is a fundamental feature of reality that persists across different physical embodiments. Dr. Michio Kaku predicts that successful contact with advanced extraterrestrial civilizations would help humanity transition from what he calls Type 0 civilization, one that hasn't yet learned to manage its own planetary resources, to a Type 1 civilization, one that has achieved sustainable global cooperation and begun expanding into space. But the transformation wouldn't happen automatically. It would require conscious choice and sustained effort by billions of individual humans who decide to embrace the larger perspective that contact with superior intelligence would provide. This is where you come in. The future I've described isn't guaranteed. It's one possible outcome that depends on how humanity responds to the challenges and opportunities we're facing right now. And humanity's response is determined by the choices made by individual people like you. Every time you choose to learn something new instead of remaining in familiar patterns, you contribute to humanity's intellectual development. Every time you cooperate with others instead of competing destructively, you contribute to our social evolution. Every time you approach the unknown with curiosity rather than fear, you contribute to our psychological readiness for expanded contact with other forms of intelligence. Dr. Barbara Marx Hubbard spent her life studying what she called conscious evolution, the process by which species learn to participate consciously in their own development, rather than being driven purely by unconscious biological and social forces. According to our research, humanity is currently experiencing the early stages of conscious evolution. We're beginning to recognize that we can choose what kind of species we become, rather than being passive victims of evolutionary forces beyond our control. If 3i Atlas represents an invitation to join a larger galactic community, then our response to that invitation will determine whether we evolve consciously toward cosmic citizenship or remain trapped in the unconscious patterns that have characterized most of human history. But here's what fills me with optimism. The fact that you've stayed with me through this entire exploration demonstrates exactly the kind of consciousness that gives me confidence in humanity's future. You've shown the intellectual courage to consider possibilities that challenge conventional thinking. You've demonstrated the patience to engage with complex ideas that don't have simple answers. You've maintained the openness to wonder about realities larger than your immediate personal concerns. These qualities, intellectual courage, patient engagement, and openness to larger realities, are exactly what we'll need to successfully navigate whatever comes next. Dr. Pierre Teilhard de Chardin wrote that we are not human beings having a spiritual experience, but spiritual beings having a human experience. If he was right, an awakening to the possibility of contact with advanced extraterrestrial intelligence isn't about encountering something foreign to human nature. It's about remembering what we truly are. You are not just a biological organism living on an isolated planet in an empty universe. You are a conscious being participating in the cosmos' own process of awakening to itself. You are part of something magnificent, profound, and meaningful beyond anything you might have previously imagined. And the choices you make every day contribute to whether humanity successfully joins that larger cosmic awakening, or remains isolated in unconscious patterns that prevent us from realizing our true potential. We've journeyed together through 250 minutes of exploration, analysis, and wonder. We've examined the scientific evidence, considered the implications, and contemplated possibilities that stretch the boundaries of human imagination. But as we conclude, I want to leave you with the most important realization of all. You are not just a spectator in this cosmic drama. You are an essential participant in what might be humanity's greatest adventure. If 3IA Tale S is indeed artificial, if it represents systematic contact with advanced extraterrestrial intelligence, if humanity is being evaluated for potential membership in a galactic community, then every choice you make matters more than you might have ever imagined. The consciousness you bring to your relationships, the wisdom you apply to your challenges, the compassion you show to others, the curiosity you maintain about the unknown, all of these contribute to the collective human response that our cosmic observers are evaluating. But even if 3I Atlas turns out to be a natural object, even if the anomalies we've discussed have conventional explanations, even if we're still alone in the universe, the perspective we've explored together still transforms everything about what it means to be human. Because we've demonstrated something remarkable, our species has developed the intellectual sophistication to seriously consider the possibility of superior extraterrestrial intelligence, the scientific capability to detect and analyze interstellar visitors, and the psychological maturity to contemplate these possibilities without panic or despair. That represents an extraordinary achievement in cosmic evolution. Dr. Carl Sagan once wrote that the cosmos is within us. We are made of star stuff. We are a way for the universe to know itself. Whether or not we're being visited by extraterrestrial intelligence, we are definitely participating in the universe's process of awakening to its own nature. Through your consciousness, through your awareness, through your capacity to contemplate these vast possibilities, the cosmos is literally examining itself and considering its own future development. That makes you infinitely precious and significant, regardless of whether 3I Atlas is artificial or natural, regardless of whether we're alone or surrounded by galactic civilizations. You are the universe becoming conscious of itself. You are star stuff awakening to wonder about its origins and destiny. You are consciousness exploring the deepest mysteries of existence. And in this moment, as you contemplate the possibility that we might not be alone, you are participating in what could be the most important transition in the history of life on Earth. November 2025 is approaching. We'll learn more about 3I Atlas. We'll discover whether our scientific analysis has been correct, whether our speculations have been justified, whether our hopes and concerns have been warranted. But regardless of what we discover, we'll face that discovery together as a conscious species that has learned to ask the biggest questions and seek the most profound truths. And that, in itself, is cause for celebration. Thank you for joining me on this incredible journey. Thank you for having the courage to consider possibilities that challenge everything we thought we knew. Thank you for maintaining the wonder and curiosity that makes us human. Keep watching the skies. Keep asking the big questions. Keep believing in humanity's potential for wisdom, growth, and cosmic citizenship. Because the future we create together will be determined by the consciousness we bring to each moment, the choices we make each day, and the perspective we maintain about our place in this magnificent, mysterious universe. The adventure is just beginning, and you are an essential part of it. If this exploration has expanded your perspective, hit that like button and subscribe for more mind-bending content about the biggest mysteries of our cosmos. Share this video with someone who's ready to have their worldview challenged, and drop a comment telling me what aspect of the 3I Atlas mystery you find most compelling. Remember, we're not just observers of this cosmic story, we're active participants in humanity's greatest adventure. And that adventure continues with every question we ask, every wonder we explore, and every moment we remain open to possibilities larger than we ever imagined. Until next time, keep looking up, keep thinking big, and keep believing in the magnificent potential of human consciousness to understand its place in this extraordinary universe. The countdown to November continues. And whatever we discover, we'll discover it together.